And we're live. And good evening, fellow rebels, and welcome to the Rebellion. Yes, that's right. This is your Christmas treat for you guys. I am Alistair Kennedy, or Alawan Kenobi, however you feel to address me. And we do not have Ross Skywalker tonight. Unfortunately, the Force is not with him. However, we do have your other favourite host, Master Yogi. How are you, sir?
Greetings and salutations.
Excellent done. You almost sound like a Force ghost there. Like I had to pull apart a Jedi holocron. Greetings and salutations. This is the Yogi holocron. Press A to continue. No, Yogi, just get to the good stuff. How are you?
I was trying to get into character, you know. I always wanted to be some kind of projection or AI, you know.
If you could have your mind in anyone else's projection, what would that be?
Well, who would I be projected to, or
no? What would your image be? What would your avatar be? Say.
Oh, I don't know. That's a loaded question. I'm about to say something inappropriate, so I'll go with a different answer.
Keep it Star Wars.
Well, yeah, it was gonna be Star Wars, but I've had this theme about head tails and all that stuff. Twi'leks.
Yeah,
I'd be a sexy Twi'lek. Oh yeah.
Of course. So you would be Jabba's dancer.
Oh God, yes, exactly. They look pretty nice with those little outfits. No, you know what? I'll be a sassy droid. There you go.
Oh, yeah, and I imagine that. No way.
That'd be one of my little like 5 sound bits that I play. I just go and like a chip, like a chip tune 8-bit kind of quality, you know.
That would be amazing. I would be that droid. So anyway, without further ado, as much as you thought, why is there an episode tonight of Star Wars RebelsCast? Well, Star Wars Rebels fans, as an appreciation gift for you guys listening to us, geeky antics, every Star Wars fan out there, we have got a guest for you tonight. A guest from a galaxy far, far away. Now, we have been teasing this over Twitter for quite some while now, and I'll just let the man speak for himself. We have got a guest on tonight that has blown me away before I had...
Hello.
There we go. Hello there, Mr. Miller. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Yeah, so I was just introducing you to the fans as the guest that blew my mind to answer my emails to come to this show from a galaxy far away.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Sure thing.
So, welcome to the show, first of all. And before we berate you with questions, I believe Yogi had concocted a wee break the ice question for us.
Oh, we are starting off with that. Oh, man, no pressure.
Of course, we have to.
So the burning question for all Star Wars fans out there, hardcore, casual, and everything in between, is there any force in the galaxy that's more irresistible than a Twi'lek?
I don't know. I'm sure whole books could be written about that. I haven't written one of them though.
Well, no, I noticed there was quite a bit of build-up in Hera's character, making a big point of how her facial features were very attractive and no one could resist her.
Well, that was of course all from Kanan's point of view. This is of course in the Star Wars A New Dawn book, and so since we're seeing the world through his eyes at those moments, that's definitely yeah, his way of thinking there. And that really did sort of, connect with what they were going to be doing in the Rebels TV series. Since I had done my conversations with them beforehand, I knew that he was definitely going to be very taken with her at the very beginning.
No kidding.
Awesome.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. So, were you allowed creative freedom to shape Kanan and Hera at all, or were there already plans in place during the book?
Well, there were already some plans in place. When I started writing the book, they gave me the story Bible for the first season of Rebels, and I had conversations with the Lucasfilm Story Group, which included a conversation with Dave Filoni, one of the executive
Mm.
producers, and then I also got notes back from all three executive producers on my plot. The idea, behind the story, showing, their earliest days, I got from them where they would have been at that point in time, when that first meeting could have taken place, and I got a sense from them of how they wanted the first meeting to transpire, how they wanted them to feel about one another when they met each other. Hera would be strictly business and want to head onward with her own projects, and she would not see Kanan as somebody that was going to be particularly helpful. Whereas Kanan would be, as we've said, taken by her, but at the same time, he would want nothing at all to do with any kind of rebellion or actions against the Empire. He, wanted to, sort of go on and live the life that he had been living. Even though, as we see in the book, he's getting a little depressed by this point. He's getting, sort of disgusted by the whole routine of going from one place to the next and not really accomplishing anything. But yeah, I would say that the story, that we get in the book, the events that happen, everything having to do with the mining world and the other characters in there like Skelly and Zaluna and Count Vidian, that was all mine. So it was, I would say, pretty much about 98%, mine. But it was one of those things where I'm baking the cake, but they told me that it needed to be a cake as opposed to something else.
Of course. Now, Count Vidian, I was going to ask you about him. He is one of the best Star Wars villains I have ever read. Can you, since you created him, bow down, sir. Can you tell us a bit about how you came about creating him? And like that was amazing. I got right into his mindset, believe it or not.
Oh, very good. Yeah, Vidian is a kind of character that I assumed would have existed in that time frame. This is when the Empire is still asserting its power. It's still taking control of existing institutions that had been part of the Republic. It struck me that there would have been a lot of people that, Palpatine, the Emperor, would have, he would have had them as allies beforehand, financial contributors and cronies, those sorts of people that he would bring into his new order. And particularly with Vidian, he was going to be the sort of character who was a corporate turnaround artist. He was somebody who fixed corporations in his previous life. He was going to be somebody who was actually pretty famous for it. People would be buying his. Well, there aren't any books, but you can imagine they would be paying to listen to his holograms about how to do things in the business section. And
So you're
so he
saying
would
he's
be
like an evil Tony Robbins?
or Donald Trump or whoever else you want to imagine as somebody who does those kinds of things. And he even we even talk about the fact that his voice is sort of been tested by focus groups to make it sound like the most appealing and authoritative voice that you can have. And that's something where in the audiobook it's really pulled off very well by the recording artist Mark Thompson. But it struck me that would be a sort of character who would seek a position in the new empire as somebody who would be out there to transform industries. He would be able to get that last little bit of energy out of a planet, or the last little bit of production out of a business that previously wouldn't have been available unless you had the methods that the empire has, which include murder.
Of course, he was absolutely brilliantly written, and I would like to see him again. I would hope to see him again. Even though I won't spoil the end of
Well,
the
we
book.
won't spoil anything, but that's what's great about this. Writing in Star Wars is, there are stories written in all sorts of different time frames, and so it's not entirely the case that when you see a character, you won't see that character's past. You might well see that character's past, or him appearing in other places.
Of course, that would be amazing to see. Now, I obviously am a big fan of your work previously through the comics, through even Mass Effect, as my ties with all games come. What was it like to, first of all, write one of the final books, if not the final books, and then be able to kick off the brand new canon novels?
Well, it was one of those things that I didn't really know was going to happen. I think you're by one of the final books you're referring to Kenobi, which was
Of
my
course.
novel from last year. And when I began writing the New Dawn book, I had no idea that it would have this sort of introductory role in the publishing side of things. My assumption was that it was just a Rebels prequel series, a Rebels prequel book, and that was going to be all that that it would be in terms of marketing, and its position. I did know that every book that was going to be coming out was going to be something where you wanted to try to minimize the number of connections to a lot of past events, simply because we want to make books easier to read and follow for people who are discovering them for the first time. But it happened that this book was the first book that was done with this Lucasfilm story group that they've instituted. That's that group that I mentioned before, where I'm as an author, I'm talking with the people that have an idea out there of what's going on in all the other media, movies, television shows, novels and comics and everything. And it just sort of happened that way, that because of when the Rebel series was launching, that dictated when my book was coming out, and because my book was tying into the Rebel series, necessarily it needed to be that starting point for things going forward.
Sure. Now, I absolutely adored Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite of all time. He's not to be beat. And when I read your book, I absolutely adored it. Yeah, Yogi's laughing. Now, it seems to me almost like as if, even though you did not know that this was going to happen, that because I now see the legends as in a sort of whispers in the galaxy sort of thing, rather than a oh my god, it doesn't count anymore. That that Kenobi, the book, was perfectly written in that sort of style. That I don't know how you hit the notes so well without future knowledge.
Well, I every book that you write, needs to be an island unto itself,
Sure.
regardless of how it ties into any other works anywhere else. And when you, this is a business to a degree, and you never know when you're writing a book whether it's going to be the first book. The first book can always be the last book. I mean, you never know whether you're going to get another chance to write something about a group of characters. And so I always try to approach every book as if it's not an ending necessarily, but you want to wrap things up in the story that you presented, and sort of have a put a cherry on top of the cake, so to speak, and have that sort of feeling that there's a completed thought there. And I think it may be the case that because Obi-Wan is at a particular point in time in his life there, he is beginning this long period of solitude and contemplation, and he's saying goodbye to the rest of the galaxy and the life that he's lived before. That, yeah, I guess you could say there's a bit of a valedictory feeling there, and a bit of a feeling of that one age has ended and that another age is beginning. Yeah, absolutely not intentional. It just obviously it's something that's coincidence. But I can see how it could be read that way.
Excellent. So, who you have vast experience over the Knights of the Old Republic books. You have the Lost Tribe of the Sith novels. Who's your favorite Star Wars character to write?
Well, a number of the movie characters I've never written at all. I still have yet to write Luke Skywalker or any of the most of the film characters,
Mm.
and I'm only very slowly moving forward in time to get to that point. Because, as you say, most of my books started in the very distant past. I have different favorite characters in each book that I've written,
Hmm.
or each series that I've written. Knights of the Old Republic, obviously, I think most people would assume, and they'd be right, that my favorite character is Griff, who is sort of the little con artist figure in that series, and he's sort of greed in concentrated form. He's and he's one of those characters who no matter what happens, it just reconfirms his own understanding of the universe, that the only thing that's worth doing is making money, and nothing else, wars and other stuff, that's not, none of that stuff's worth your time. uh so yeah, I think that character there. Lost Tribe of the Sith, I really loved writing the character of Varner Hiltz, who is the old librarian who
Hmm.
is a character who you would assume that he would have very little importance in a Sith society, and completely unexpected by him. He gets vaulted into this position. It always reminded me of Claudius, the Roman emperor from who gets elevated when he had absolutely no idea that he would ever he certainly was never seeking that position. And just various other characters, side characters, even from the different the different books. In the Knight Errant novel, I loved writing the Brigadier Rusher, who is he's traveling around as a mercenary with his own artillery unit, and
Hmm.
that gave me a chance to think about what an artillery unit in Star Wars would be like, and what would be the concerns of a guy who is trying to move around 200 people like that, and all of their equipment, and take jobs from various Sith lords, and still try to have a little bit of a moral center to himself. So yeah, I mean, there various different characters that I've enjoyed writing, and I try never to create any characters that are going to be no fun to write.
You have not failed yet, sir. You have not failed yet.
Well, I wanted to say too. One of the things that I really enjoyed about A New Dawn, I was just telling Ali this earlier. It was possibly the easiest read I've had in a long time, and that's saying a lot because I'm a family man and there's constant distractions every time. And this was such a smooth and easy read. I mean, it just flowed so well. To me, I think this book is a fantastic entry point for people new to Star Wars. Which, I mean, who's hasn't been exposed to Star Wars at this point? There's still people on the fence, believe it or not. I know some
Well,
of
I appreciate your saying that, because that's something that, as I've written more and more novels, I've been working harder and harder at.
them.
One of the things that I found when I was doing comics is that, as I became more experienced, I was able to tell stories with fewer and fewer panels, with fewer and fewer things on the page.
Oh, that's
I was
tough.
Yeah, and it's a sign of the new writer that you're putting 8 or 9 or 10 panels on a page. I was doing that in the beginning, uh, and there's just a world of difference between my earliest work at Marvel, and then my most recent work in comics, as you learn to economize. The same is true with prose, with writing novels. And one of the things that I've tried to do, and this is not entirely motivated by the fact that a lot of people are out there reading these things on Kindles or other devices where they're just reading a small chunk at a time. Maybe stealing 5 minutes or something at their lunch hours to work their way through something. I found is that my chapters are getting shorter the longer that I've written. Now an average chapter for me will be like 1,300 to 1,500 words, and that's enough to get two really good scenes in there, and it also happens to sort of coincide with what I can usually get done in a writing session of a couple of hours. And I expect that I'll continue to write this way going forward because it does feel really, it feels energetic. It feels like it brings the story forward. Readers are going to find the same approach in the next book that I have coming out. I have a Star Trek novel. My first full-length Star Trek novel comes out in January. It's called Star Trek: The Next Generation. Takedown is the subtitle, and that's another book where it is a very fast moving story, and it's something which I'm hopeful that people will look at that as well as being a good first novel if you haven't read Star Trek books for a while or ever.
I love that,
Awesome.
and it's really it really impressed me how you were able to keep the story moving so quickly, but also putting these nice little details. And I felt like there was maybe I'm reading too into it, but I felt like there was some very deliberate Easter eggs in there. For example, you talked about Zone 42 a lot in there. It's a very big part of the storytelling. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but was the number something very deliberate there, or was it just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
arbitrary? Okay.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
Excellent.
if you're gonna use a two-digit number, go with Douglas Adams. I will
Nice.
say though, readers who go to my website farawaypress.com, I have a behind-the-scenes page on all of my books where I get into trivia like this. I haven't got one up for A New Dawn yet. I've been delinquent in getting that done, but one of my numerical Easter eggs is I hide the number 560 in a lot of books, 560, because that was the number on the warship that my grandfather served on in World War II.
Oh, that's
He,
awesome.
Oh
he
wow.
served on one of these big they're known as landing ship tanks.
Mhm.
They're these big vessels that would drop off the tanks on the beaches, and his was in the Pacific, and they had so many of these ships that they had no names for them. They just had numbers, and so LST 560 was his ship, and so I've hidden 560s in a lot of things. I've hidden the number 56, a lot of things divisible into 560. Just whenever I need to put a random number in somewhere, I put that there, and it's actually kind of fun because I did later on. I was contacted by the head of the National Association for people who served on that kind of ship, and I was able to find out that the head of that association actually did serve with my grandfather and knew him. He's since passed on, my grandfather, but that was really cool. And being able to say, hey, look, here are these places where I've sort of put in little nods to your ship in my books. That was really fun to do.
That's awesome. So
That is
actually,
amazing.
so you had a little a stint on with Marvel. I remember. I seem to vaguely recall some stuff. You want to talk about some of your favorite stories that you wrote in those days?
Yeah, I got my start writing professional comics with a series at Marvel called Crimson Dynamo, and that was based on the Iron Man villain at the time. He was the Soviet version of Iron Man. Now it happens that among the collectibles that I have in my house, I got a master's degree in Soviet studies in the early 1990s. And I have the diploma, and that's about all I ever got out of it because I the Soviet Union collapsed before I could do anything, working on my dissertation. So I decided not to take the doctorate, and instead I went into journalism. So when I got the chance to write, a comic series for Marvel, I thought, well, there really hasn't been a good comic series that shows, you know, what what life is like for people living in Russia, and I wanted to do something that would be a sort of a Russian superhero series, and I was able to sort of resurrect the old Crimson Dynamo armor and use it in this storyline, and then that led to me getting to write Iron Man for a year, and that was again a dream come true for me because that was one of my favorite Marvel characters, and then that led on to Star Wars later on. But yeah, I did continue to draw on those old studies with A New Dawn, because A New Dawn was telling this, as we've discussed, this story of an empire taking control of an existing government and transforming a society into its own image. And I drew a lot about what we saw in the book. I drew a lot of that from my readings of what the Soviet Union did in the 1920s and 30s. During collectivization, when they were transforming the country from being this agrarian society into this military industrial state that we wound up having for so many years. And so, yeah, I figure if I continue to write long enough, everything I ever learned in school will be useful somewhere.
I love it.
Excellent. So with your writing, obviously you've done novels, you've done comics. Do you prefer comics or do you prefer writing novels?
Well, they're both very different experiences. Obviously, comics give you a shorter time frame to work on them, but also you get to see the work that you've done a lot sooner. Because a novel tends to have 8 or 9 months before the book actually comes out. I would say another big difference, of course, is just the amount of time that's required in a novel. That takes a commitment of several months.
Hmm.
It's a comic book is much more like a relay race,
Hmm.
whereas a novel is a marathon. And of course, it's a relay race where you're passing the baton to yourself, but you have a break in between each one. And I think the closest that I've gotten to that feeling, I did a story with publishing label called 47 North. I did a story of my own called Overdraft, which was a science fiction story, a
The
space.
Rhine Offensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
space opera, and it was a fun book. And the way that we released that was that it was released like a serial. People would download a new episode to their Kindle every 2 weeks, and so what they got at the end was something the same length as a novel. And if you buy it now, you'll be able to find it online at Amazon. When you read it, it feels like it's a novel, but it was actually written and constructed over the course of many months of these individual releases. And it also has that sort of, obviously, that episodic feeling of quick chapters that my other books have had more recently. So yeah, it is as far as really preferring one to the other, I guess it's really like choosing between beef and chicken. I mean, you sometimes you're in the mood to do one, sometimes the other. In terms of what you're going to have for dinner. Yeah, I have to say, that having done both now, I like being able to switch from one to the other. And with comics, I can let somebody else worry about what things look like. Although there I have to be very careful to make sure that the artists know what things should look like in the beginning. Whereas in books, novels, I do like the ability to tell what's going on in people's minds, to show their thoughts about things.
Of course, that came very much across in A New Dawn with Kanan. Like, as much as I love the TV series, when I was reading Kanan in that book, I kind of went, that's why he'd done that. So, hats off to you, sir. So, what piece of writing that you've ever done, if there is one, are you most proud of? What one stands out to you that you went, this is the one that I want shown?
I guess I would have to say, well, obviously every book that you do, you feel,
Sure.
you're proudly about, and it's sort of like choosing between your children. I have to say, Kenobi has a special meaning simply because it took so long to get out. It was an idea that I came up with for a graphic novel. Actually, it was something we were discussing that would be a graphic novel for Dark Horse to do during the 30th anniversary of Star Wars. Well, you can do the math and know that the 30th anniversary of Star Wars would have been in 2007. So it would have had to have been done well before that. And so I was working on that concept in 2006, and as I continued to elaborate more and more on the idea, it became apparent that there was no way in the world it was ever going to fit in a comic book. It was just too big of a series, and really, just step back and talk about what we mentioned a minute ago, the difference between comics and novels. So much of what happens is internal to the lives and the minds of these characters, and is not really necessarily very visual. It really belonged in a novel. So it wasn't until 2012 that the opportunity came along, that I was able to get to write it. And so yes, getting to do that book, and then getting to do it in what was pretty much the way that I imagined it. Without space battles, without lightsaber duels, without all of the trappings that you normally find in these kinds of stories. That was something where I was expecting the publisher to take a chance, and they were willing to do it, and they stood behind it, and I'm really delighted at how well that went over. We won the Scribe Award for best original science fiction tie-in novel for 2013. I guess it's 2014 is when it was awarded. So, but yeah, I mean, that was an award that came from my peers, the other authors that write these books. So, I think that one meant quite a bit to me.
That's excellent. Like, there's no books of yours that I have read so far, or graphic novels that I have been disappointed with at all. However, I would like to ask. I want more. I want more. Um, are there any plans for you to do another Kanan Hera based novel?
Well, these questions are always difficult to answer
Yeah, sure.
because if there were something that I could announce, it would have already been announced by the people who announce things.
Would you like to? I'll rephrase. Would you like to?
Oh, of course I would like to. I mean, this is Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever. These things are all so much fun to write. Whether it's Mass Effect or I've even written Simpsons comics, Conan. I've written. These things are all fun, and then the books of my own that I've done. Everything that I've written has been something that I've wanted to write, that I've enjoyed, and I compare it with the sorts of things that I had to write about very, very early in my career. I spent a year editing magazines about the lumber industry, and where I was having to write articles about lumber prices and how various grades and species of lumber were selling, I have to say, if there had been an EKG on me, one of those electric monitors, the doctors probably would have recorded a time of death, because I was that bored with it. But I still tried to make it sound interesting, and that's really the test. This is sort of like the Jedi trials. Can you make this sound interesting? And so yeah, I mean, getting to write these other things is certainly a blessing if you can get to do it. And I've worked hard to get into a position where I could do it. And I certainly would love to play in these sandboxes again. And as for what's coming up in the future, I'm always working on various things. I'm working now. I can only though tell you that the next thing that we have coming up for release is that Star Trek: The Next Generation novel, Takedown, which is slated for January 27th, I believe, is the release date on that.
Awesome.
And then I have another short story in my Overdraft universe that is coming out as the lead story in an anthology which is called Apollo's Daughters, and I'm expecting to see that one coming out sometime in the next couple of months.
That is, I'm glad to hear that because I loved Overdraft. It is
Oh,
really good.
very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I that one is close to my heart. Obviously, it's getting the chance to write in your own universe allows you to explore things
Mm.
that are fun to you. And I can also I got to come up with ways that are were different of telling the same sorts of stories I had done in the past. I there's no hyperspace in my book. There's no we have interstellar travel, but it has a different mechanism.
Hmm.
We don't have interstellar communications that are automatic. Like subspace radio as you have in Star Trek or Star Wars. So there's a different feel to it. It's much more like the East India Company in the 1600s, where you would dispatch a ship, but you would never know whether it got there or not until somebody came back and told you, or nobody came back. That's a bit of the feeling that's in that book. And you mentioned Douglas Adams. There is a humorous element to this book. It's not certainly not. It's not in the same. It's not in the same Adams vein. But it is something where there are a lot of light moments in this book,
Mm. It's
and I'm glad that. Mhm.
it's what I was just gonna. Sorry, I just was gonna say it's one of the best reads I've had this year until I read A New Dawn.
Oh well,
That
I no, I appreciate that, and yeah, I have to say it was a great amount of fun to do, and there's a lot of resources for that world on my farawaypress.com website. Just follow the overdraft links. There's a timeline for the universe on there, and sort of a my own encyclopedia. And I will be doing more in that world. It's just I've had so much other stuff going on. It's a matter of trying to find time for all the projects.
awesome. Now that we're done with the business side of things, we can kick back and get into a wee bit of fun. I seen today on Twitter, Mr. Miller, that you had been given a Macquarie logo crew patch.
Yes, Maggie Thompson, who is the sort of she's kind of the Martha Washington of comics fandom in the United States. She attended a lot of the first conventions. She with her husband Don Thompson wrote edited the first fanzine for comics in 1960, and she and Don were the editors of Comics Buyer's Guide. They started as columnists for it in the early 1970s, and then she stayed on as editor all the way until the publication concluded here in I guess 2013 it was when it finally went away. I worked with Don and Maggie for many years when I escaped the lumber business and started working for the comics magazines. Uh, and Don and Maggie had gone in 1976
Mm.
to the Lucas offices, and they had been invited there after they Star Wars had its sort of limited unveiling at San Diego Comic-Con that year, and so they paid a call on Charlie Lippincott and the staff in Lucas's offices in Los Angeles. and were given this patch that I was given today by her. She had it framed. And it was one of these things where it was supposed to be a secret, not for redistribution back then. But I think obviously it's okay to pass along now. And yeah, what it is Ralph McQuarrie had designed a new logo. It's not the actual logo that they eventually used for the movies, but it's sort of a sort of a curly lettered logo that appears on the very earliest T-shirts and some of the earliest press materials. And this particular thing was a patch that was used by the members of the crew. It's a blue patch with white lettering, and she had that framed, and it's now sitting on my wall here.
That's
And it was wonderful to get, and I was able to show her in return that that Star Trek novel, which I have coming out next month, is dedicated to her and to the memory of her husband Don.
that's amazing.
So yeah, they were very important to me getting out of the lumber business, that's for sure, and also to getting to do the sorts of things I'm doing now.
That is amazing. I also liked your wee insert next to it saying a long time ago in a state far, far away,
Yeah,
California.
that was actually written
Oh, it
on
was
the.
written with it.
Yeah, she put it on the package. Yeah, it was on the outside of the package that she gave me. So I was like, well, I'm gonna print that. That's kind of cool.
That is
Uh,
amazing. Now again, Yogi, I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Miller here has actually had a Star Wars character in the comics named after him.
Really?
Yeah. There's a in the Courageous, right, which was a ship, the Galactic Republic Helmsman.
yeah,
He was called Karth Onasi.
well, Karth Onasi is not this. Well, this is an interesting story.
Mm.
Karth isn't named after me, but the physical design of the character in the comics was based on me
Mhm.
by the artist Dustin Weaver. But I didn't know that, and so I selected that character to be Cartho Nassi, who he just happened to look like. Cartho Nassi is a character from the Knights of the Old Republic video game that BioWare did.
Mhm.
And so it's a he was a character that I was going to be using later on, and so some fan asked, hey, that character on the bridge there, that looks like Cartho Nassi. Is that who he is? And I said, why, yes, that is him. And I was trying to make it sound like I had planned this, and then the artist contacted me and said, "No, John, that's you." That's so I have this odd connection there with that character, and I don't mind it because Karth is a really cool guy, and he's very decent to
Yeah.
the star of our series, Zane Carrick, and so that's fine by me. But yeah, I did not think that it was me, because if it had been me, it would have scared off all the readers. I wouldn't have wanted to see that.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing that you've got your likeness basically in the Old Republic. The Old Republic is my favorite time period of all Star Wars. It has to be, and to have a character that partly resembles you that you do not want to relate with is still better than anything that I've got going. However, breaking it down more into, we've kind of touched on games there. Do you like my segue there? During our emails backwards and forwards, Mr. Miller, we discovered that we had kind of a similarity. So I write for allgames.com now. So I wanted to ask a bit about your experiences in all games.
Yeah, this was just something I did as a sideline
Mm-hmm.
in the late 1990s. I can't remember if I had been contacted by somebody with All Game, or if I just I don't remember it really at all how it happened, but they were beginning to fill out that website with reviews of classic video games. And at my company, I had expanded the comics magazine into a trade magazine, not just for comics, but also games. We had changed it from comics retailer to games retailer. But even then, it wasn't video games. It was simply, collectible card games and board games and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't able to touch the video part. and I was not able to get my publishers to start any kind of magazine for video games or anything that would give me a chance to write about the stuff that that I grew up with. I was very much an Intellivision player, that the Mattel Intellivision in the early 1980s. But then, of course,
Awesome.
I got a ColecoVision and an Atari, and later on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I got a Sega and everything else that everybody else got. And there were some slots available to write some of the Intellivision reviews for All Game, and I did a few of them, and I did not do any more. I think in part because the way that they were doing them in those days is they were trying to fill out as much of the website as possible, and so I think people were really in a race to reserve as many titles as they could get to write the reviews on, and just about
Yeah.
everything that I was about to write about got reserved, and
Yeah.
uh, before I could spend much more time thinking about it, that's when we did get a game magazine, not a video game magazine,
Hmm?
but a game magazine for my company that I was working with, Krause Publications. We bought Scry magazine. Scry was the magazine devoted to collectible card games, like Magic and Pokemon, and that happened in 1999. And by that point, all of my spare time and all of my thoughts about games were being directed into this one publication. So it's certainly the fact that it all came to light again. I can't remember if somebody found it, the old material on All Game, or
Hmm.
if it just came up. As I know that I was mentioned a couple of weeks ago on the Intellivisionaries podcast. That's the podcast that's devoted to Intellivision,
Hmm.
and it's fun to see all that stuff coming back around. I bought the Intellivision has this flashback console unit that plugs directly into the a modern television set, and comes with 60 different games in flash memory on the I guess it's flash memory, but solid state memory on the device.
Hmm.
And I got I
Yes.
got I got one of those, and I've been playing the heck out of that over the last few weeks. So it is nice to see it all coming back.
And
Yeah,
fun
it was.
fun fact, you could actually there's actually the televisionaries. I listened to the podcast too. I think I actually heard you on there. So that might
Yeah, I
it's
think
a small
they,
world. Did you
yeah
know that
they
the
they mentioned.
guys?
They mentioned me because somebody looped me into a conversation about the stuff I did for All Game, and
Oh, okay.
they saw that I had done this stuff, and they mentioned me.
That's
I'd
pretty
love to do
neat.
that. I'd love to do that podcast, because I could certainly talk about some of the experiences that we had. Intellivision was to us sort of like Intellivision and Atari was kind of like Marvel versus DC, or or Star Wars versus Star Trek, or something like that
Yeah,
in the fandom. Yeah, there were people that were heavily devoted to one or the other, and it really when it was at its peak, my fandom for that happened to be right around the time when it was also in my junior high school, growing up. That was also when comics were sort of at their peak popularity,
that's
uh,
true.
and all, and also when role playing games like Dungeons and Dragons were at their peak popularity. I remember when I was 14. Yeah, everybody in school that year that I knew, was into comics, or the video games consoles like the Intellivision, or Dungeons and Dragons, or something like that. And there's a synthesis between all of this going on, because of
Yep.
course you had the Dungeons and Dragons game for Intellivision, and you had the Dungeons and Dragons ads running in the Marvel comics, and of course DC would later do D&D comics. But you had that sort of synergy of, hey, this is a great fun time. And then I got to high school, and when I got to high school, it was like a light switch went off, and everybody that was into all of that stuff dropped it in order to go chase girls and get drunk.
It
And
was a weird time, wasn't it? It was a very weird time.
well, that's what happened. And the thing was, I stuck with it, and it ended up, I think, being an important factor in my later career because I ended up inheriting all the comics that the other kids in school had, and all the gaming stuff that the other kids in school had, and all of the Intellivision cartridges, and all the ColecoVision stuff, and all the Atari stuff that other people had. Yeah, I've got mountains of that stuff, and
Oh
I only
man.
bought cartridges through the end of when they were producing them. All of these other, why do I have 5 Astro Smash cartridges? It's because they came from other people.
Little did
So
they
yeah.
know what they were sitting on.
Well, and I think the fact that I had to sort of keep the fandom going alone for a lot of these things, by the time I'm 16, I'm doing my own fanzine, my own newsletters and things, doing comics reviews, trying to get a few of the other people, the other people that I knew interested. And then, of course, when I discovered that there was a world outside and that I could, meet other people who were into this stuff by, writing through Comics Buyer's Guide and the various magazines that were devoted to these things. There were no blogs back then.
Yeah.
If
The
there had
best
been an
thing that was
internet,
back then was
it would
probably
have been a less.
bulletin board systems. That's about as
Well,
good as it
yeah.
got.
Well, I did. I didn't even have that. So it was fanzines passing back and forth through the mail.
Yeah.
It was on the one hand, it made it a lot more lonely than it probably would have been otherwise. But I continue to meet people that I knew way back when, through that fandom, even now. And so people who are publishing some of the other things, or people who just read some of the other fanzines, and we have that same collective memory. Um, and having to actually do the fanzines on my own, that really helped me as a journalist, because when I got to be the editor of my campus paper in high school, and the campus paper at my university, which I just went back and talked to the students there last month. I already knew how to put together a magazine. I already knew how to put together a newspaper, because I had been doing it on my own. And so, yeah, I mean, I think if it hadn't been for all the other kids discovering the other stuff, I might not have been doing what I'm doing now. It's that kind of thing where you have enough years pass, you begin to see sort of the patterns, and you see that there's where all those connections kind of were made.
And it's interesting too, 'cause it's all very cyclic, right? Because if you look at it now, the retro gaming scene with the televisionaries and the Retro Junkies Network, which I'm a big fan of. So you mentioning that just got me excited. I was more on the Atari 2600 side. I had one with the
Hmm?
wood console. Then I had the first one that came out with the plastic.
Yeah.
The little switches on there, the dip switches. People don't even know what those are anymore.
Well, the Intellivisions were expensive. I
Oh
mean, it
yeah,
was. I
yeah.
had to work for an entire summer to get the money to get one of those, and it. I saw somebody posted. I think Brett Weiss posted this. And again, somebody who is active in that field. He writes a lot of the classic video game guide books. He was an editor at All Game. He may even have been the editor that hired me in the beginning. I don't know, but we actually hired him at Comics Buyer's Guide to do comics reviews years later. So that's how we all sort of know each other. But yeah, he posted something where in adjusted dollars, the Intellivision today would have, what we were paying for those was like $1,000 today.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it was just ridiculous. And it was much more marketed as sort of this is the Cadillac system. This is the step up from the other systems that were available, which is primarily the 2600. And of course, it just had more memory on board, and the stuff that you would have if you were designing a game system in 1978, 79, as opposed to 76 or 77 or whenever the 2600s groundwork was laid. And there are 2600 games I like too. It's one of those things where you never forget the first one that you have, and
Yeah,
that was the system that I always loved the fact that they released all the games in those sort of bookcase style cartridge things where you would open them out, and it was like things to put in your library.
absolutely.
And that gave you the feeling that okay, this isn't just a disposable thing here. This game is more than just the cartridge. It's also all the stuff that goes with it. And of course that era is completely gone.
Oh yeah, that was the time when instruction manuals were like little mini novels, and those things were collectible on their own.
Oh yeah.
It's changed so much.
Well, I mean, Magic was one of the third party producers for Intellivision and Atari, and they would actually do photo shoots for their characters and tell little backstories in the rule books.
Yeah,
So it had that feeling of you got the sense that maybe it could cross further over into the video games, not video game, but the role playing game world than it did. But the problem simply was that it hit that crash that happened in the 83, where there was just too much material, too many systems, and then at the same time, the fall of 1983. That's when I bought my first computer. And I think that's pretty much when everybody else started to buy their first personal computers, was
yep.
in that mid 80s era. And by that point, if you were looking for a role-playing game experience in a video game, well, now you had Ultima. Now you had all these more complicated games that were out there that could be done simply because you were working with 64K instead of 4K. And
It's such
and
a
so
big leap, but it's amazing what the video game developers worked with back then. You're making me nostalgic. We might have to get Ali. We might have to do a separate show just to talk video games and like retro stuff. Yeah,
and,
this
and,
is
the, and
great
the
stuff.
well, the fun thing about the video games is that unlike a lot of the other stuff that I've done, it's the one place where my hobby has not become my job. I'm still just a fan of this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I certainly never worked on any of that material. I've done a little video game work, but not much really to speak of. I'm able to actually approach that stuff as a consumer and talk about it. And I think it's cool that all these, it is cyclical. These people like me are now of an age where we can go back and invest some money in some of this stuff.
exactly.
You just wish that you had gone back and bought everything while it was still cheap.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. There's an ebb and flow
so
to it though, because when it sometimes it tapers off and people stop collecting it, the prices go down. But now the demand is so high with all that stuff and television, Atari 2600, and people are letting go less of the stuff, so the price gets even higher. That's what I'm
yeah,
seeing.
yeah. Certainly there was a time where you couldn't give any of that stuff away,
Yep.
and that's why I have as much as I do. Probably was because I'd find these things and I would buy them, and I have to say that it's it's something I really just delighted to see that people are still interested in it and that it's coming back. I don't know how deeply I would get into it in the future. I know that people are starting to do a lot of these new games for the old system. I tend to gravitate to the 8 or 10 games that I was actually pretty good at, and I'm not so good at picking up on the new ones, at least in terms of the hand-eye coordination kind of games.
So ladies and gentlemen, we're getting the full breadth of who John Jackson Miller is. Not just a writer, but a gaming nerd, which we love. We can totally relate. Did you ever get into the collectible card games? Because you just say you edited it for Scry, right?
Yeah, I was the editor of Scry from 2000 to 2002, and I edited or put together two very large books, which are sort of like the giant-sized encyclopedia of every collectible card game that had been put out to that time.
Wow.
And we had all the checklists, and we had reviews of every single, not just every single game, but every single set, every single release that came out for the games. Uh,
Wow.
and
That's
uh,
an
and
undertaking and a half, huh?
yeah, I think when the first book came out, I worked 72 days consecutively on it. Never took a day off to try to get that thing out. And I'm proud of those books. People still use them. I still get a lot of traffic to my website. People searching, Scribe because they're looking for prices on these old games.
Oh
And of
yeah.
course, the fact is, there's nobody really doing that anymore since that magazine went away. And a lot of those games, our prices really were the last, places that prices ever appeared, with the exception of retailer websites, because they were for really obscure games that vanished. It was fun doing that because I was able to sort of when we were filling out that book, I got to do a lot of detective work to try to discover were there actually card lists for this game or that game or the other. Yeah, I was never a big player. I certainly played Magic at the very beginning, and then when I discovered that I could make hundreds of dollars buying and selling boxes of cards without actually opening them, I started. I didn't really play as much after that, and
Yeah.
then that sort of all fell through. After the market fell through for those cards for a while. And I think finally this past year I did sell off, not this past year, but a couple of years ago, I did sell off the remaining mass of the cards that I had. Uh, just because again it wasn't something that I pursued nearly to the point that I did with comics. Or I got 50,000 comic books still. I'm never going to get rid of those. Or some other kinds of games. Yeah, when it comes to non-electronic games, I have tended to be a strategy board gamer or a war gamer. I bought a lot of games from a company called Avalon Hill.
Oh
Uh,
yes,
that
absolutely.
Diplomacy, civilization, trireme. There were all these different, games that now would be very, very hard to try to sell just because, well, not diplomacy because that's fairly simple, but a lot of the war games, so much time was spent in management of the system and management of the counters and everything.
Yep.
And there were literally games that were designed to take 200 hours to play.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and but I enjoyed playing these things. And I remember in college, in my dorm room, we had various games that were. I remember I had the Civil War game from Victory Games, which was an Avalon Hill subsidiary. We had that mounted on my wall, and we used Stickum to put all the counters on the map. And we'd get a turn played over the course of a week, and so for a couple of months, guys would be just dropping by to see what was going on in the Battle of Gettysburg, just to see what was happening. Those kinds of games have pretty much all fallen by the wayside because the computers are so much better at keeping tracks of those kinds of things. Although even then, I find that there's a retro wave of that's been coming along too. You know, I have a number of different emulators that run old DOS games and Apple games.
Yep.
So every so often I'll turn on one of those to play Ultima on the role playing side of things, or on the DOS side. Avalon Hill did a really good port of there's a railroad game called 1830 that they did, and there is no other electronic game equivalent to that, except the one that they designed. I think it was in 1991 or 92. And I'll still play that thing. It is, it still beats me with the artificial intelligence it had 20 years ago.
Wow. Now bringing it back to Star Wars, I know we got to wrap this up, and we
Sure.
definitely appreciate your time. This is just some great stuff we're learning here about you. But have you ever gotten into any of the Star Wars games? Because there's one I believe that's pretty big. I think it's called Star Wars Dominion, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a D20 based game.
Well, there was the original Star Wars role playing game that West End did, and then Wizards of the Coast did its own Star Wars role playing game, and then later the Saga system role playing game that they did. Um, that's where the little bit of professional game design work that I did has been done. I wrote a module for the Star Wars role playing game that appeared as part of the Dawn of Defiance campaign. I guess that would probably be about 5 years ago now. Wizards of the Coast no longer has the license, but you can still find that game module online, and that one is kind of fun because it includes Inquisitors, and of course Inquisitors are where they got the idea for the Inquisitor in Rebels.
Who, mind you, I thought I was probably I was completely I'm embarrassed to admit this, all right. But when I was reading A New Dawn, I actually thought Count Vidian was gonna end up becoming the Inquisitor because the way he was made out of my head. That's the way I pictured him.
No, that's entirely something that I as we start out, that's an open possibility. But yeah, I mean, I did that, and also I co-wrote the Knights of the Old Republic campaign guide for that role playing game too.
Nice.
And that was something where that was, since I was writing the comic series at the time, we were able to hide all these hints about what was going on in the comics in the role-playing game, and it turned out that it was such a popular book. That book is actually more valuable than anything that I've written in the secondary market. That book goes for about 200 hours right now, and I wish they had sent me more than two of them because it's that may be one of the reasons why it's so expensive is they didn't print a whole lot of them. But it is a volume that a lot of people really enjoyed, and certainly we enjoyed working on it.
Awesome. Ali, did you have anything else to ask?
That was about that. That blew my mind.
Yeah, we went deep on the gaming stuff.
Yeah, didn't intend to go that far, but if anybody's listened to this point,
I'm sure they will. Like this, all our All Games fans will absolutely love this. Mr. Fred Rojas himself, personally, I know will absolutely do this. He does Gaming History 101. It was incredible just hearing everything. Like that was more than we could have possibly hoped for when we got you on, Mr. Miller.
Well, I was quite smitten when he mentioned collectible card games and a television and Atari. I said, okay, keep going.
Well, I've been fortunate that I've been able to spend the last 20, 25 years of my career reliving my childhood until I get it right. I get to delve into all of this stuff, and it's been fun. And I certainly enjoy being able to talk about this kind of stuff. I'll tell you that before the month of November when I did a tour, I did something like 40 podcasts on this novel, and this is the first one that I've done since the trip, and so I'm refreshed, and maybe this is why I've gone a little longer here.
It's appreciated, much appreciated.
Sure thing, and I appreciate the chance to talk here. Let me just get in for the listeners my website, farawaypress.com, and people can also find me on Twitter at JJMFaraway.
Excellent.
Fantastic. And actually, we have one little fanboyish request for you before you part ways. Could you give us a soundbite of you saying, "This is John Jackson Miller. You're listening to Star Wars RebelsCast UK." You don't have to do that voice, though. That's terrible. I'm sure you could do a better job than I did.
This is John. Okay, here we go. This is John Jackson Miller, and you're listening to Star Wars RebelsCast UK.
Awesome. That was amazing.
Is it Rebels or Rebelcast? I didn't know.
Rebels. We're the Rebels. If it was Rebelcast, there would be one.
Okay, well there you go.
You
Got it right
nailed
then.
it.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much, Miss Mel. That was a brilliant. I will email you say my thanks in the coming days. I appreciate your time.
All right, much appreciated on this side too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Bye now. And everyone listening, that was John Jackson Miller. That was amazing, Yogi.
Yeah, I had to restrain myself because he started talking about the gaming stuff and this tangents to the Star Wars universe. But I was like, oh man, must fight the urge. Because I mean, it's funny. It's funny how small the space is. Well, the
space-time continuum is the wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yeah, wibbly wobbly timey wimey makes everything much smaller. The whole universe and all its space and time is true. But he was talking about the televisionaries, and I've been listening to a lot of the Retro Junkies Network lately, and there's some overlap there with what we do on allgames.com and on Geeky Antics. I mean, the podcasting world is small, but not just podcasting. Like, I've bumped into so many writers and people that do props for Doctor Who show, like, and it's funny, like, how after you start talking to people a little bit more, digging a little deeper, you start seeing all the overlap. And when talking to him, I'm like, whoa, yeah, we know those people too. It's like, man, really?
Yeah. Do you know what actually gave me hope? See, like when I first got the email back from him that was saying that he used to write for All Games. Like, I was in kind of a slump and I was like moaning about my writing, Yogi. You know, everyone gets it. I was like, this isn't good enough. That isn't good enough. I've just reviewed Call of Duty. I can't believe I've just done that. And then he messaged me back saying he used to write for All Games too. And I turned around to Tash and went, one day I can write Star Wars.
Yeah, man.
And she just looked at me and I went, well, maybe.
And I think we live in a really good time where, like, there's more possibilities than ever. It's just you have to stay committed. I mean, I've done ghostwriting, and writing a novel, a fictional work, on average is gonna take you anywhere from 100 to like 500 hours, and it's really daunting. Especially as a ghostwriter, you get paid really well, but there's no follow up to it because you get no credit. You just get a lump sum or a few payments, royalties, whatever. But you don't exist. You're a ghost.
Yeah. Like the ship.
Yeah, and I really love how in New Dawn they introduce the ghost, and I like the bit in there. This really struck me when Kanan it says Kanan was in love, and the way it was but it was written in a way that you could think it was Hera or the ship. Like, it didn't really make it. Like, John didn't make it that obvious, but clearly it was pretty much a ship. But he's falling for Hera pretty hard.
You're still in the Twilix.
No. I'm being serious. I'm not in the Twilix. I'm not in the Twilix. But I do like the way they really build up her character. Like, she's all jokes aside, she's so playful and sassy and kicks butt. Like, I like a strong, independent woman type, but that also isn't afraid to ask for help or accept help. That's to me, that's a true strong woman, And she's just such a believable character. Like, I feel like she's just right there in front of me doing stuff, and it's like, yeah, keep on doing your thing, girl. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you and Ross pushed me to reading it because I don't get to do that much fictional reading these days because I'm usually writing and working on different projects. So when you're putting out content, it's so much harder to like consume it, and it's like I gotta be picky. But oh man, I completely enjoyed it, and we don't have Mr. Miller on the line now, so I'm being authentic here, guys. It was awesome. Like, I just became such a fanboy, but I fell back in love with Star Wars all over again, and it made me actually appreciate Star Wars Rebels a lot more. Like, did you feel that, like, reading A New Dawn? It's like you go back to the episode of Star Wars Rebels. It's like, yeah, now I get it. It makes even more sense now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, you know me, I like Kanan, and Kanan appeals to me, but I felt we didn't get enough of him in the show.
Yeah.
And Mr. Miller's already retweeting our tweets. That is amazing. So, yeah, I felt Mr. Miller's work. I'd already read Kenobi. Like, I think I gave you I'll let you loan it.
Yeah, I gotta read that next.
Yeah.
I like his writing style a lot.
Oh my god, Kenobi is fantastic though, dude. It's like like I was saying with my question, it was like the Legends is what they're calling the old expanded universe, and it
Right.
brings it more into front. The way that it's written is as if it was written as a back in the days before time were passed on Tatooine, Mr. Kenobi. What? Not in such a creepy voice though. I've got the cold. You know, you know. It was like it was about. It's almost like a myth. You know, like, and it's written in that style. And he says he did. He told us he did not know that that was going to be the last of the Star Wars novels before it was all going to get slashed and considered legends. But it was written in a way as if he knew. You know, it was like it's such a fantastic book. I've got it in hardback, I've got it in paperback, and I have it in digital. So I also have like the statue of Obi-Wan that I don't think I've put pictures up yet, but dude, this statue, you have to see it. I'll send you a link just now, Yogi. But anyway, you chat on while I find you this link.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, let's plug the site for him. Far
Oh
Away
yeah,
Press,
Faraway Press.
.com, and it's not aesthetically appeasing. That's something that happens with authors and creatives. Like when we get into that mode of like writing or just focusing on the content, we're like, presentation be damned. But there's so much great information here. He's got a shop on there. You can see some of the games he's been involved with, nonfiction stuff he's done, comics. This guy's a true geek. Like this is the real deal, you know. And I think that's what's exciting about interviewing. I like interviewing those kind of people that are really grounded and relatable. If they say, hey, I'm a few steps away from doing what you're doing because I'm a geek too.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, I used to write, but it's the closeness of it, Yogi, that got me. It was like, I know we're kind of going personal here, listeners, but that's why people listen to podcasts. It's like
Exactly.
the dude, something with him inspired me more. And I have started writing, and I have started my own science fiction sort of novel that I'm going to possibly prototype as a radio show on Geeky Antics, possibly, because we talked about that before.
Yeah.
Just to see how it goes. Like I'm going to write a small version of it. And just his emails back, like this, I'm not joking. This man inspired me, and I was nervous, even though you probably couldn't hear it because I had the cold. I was nervous talking to this dude because he's been where we've been, Yogi, and he's done all these things. He's wrote Mass Effect, one of my favorite game series of all times. He's got his name stamped on those comics. He
Yep.
was a lovely gentleman to talk to, and he's inspired me. That's what I'm gonna say.
He's touched like almost every facet of my childhood and the things that I consider like core to who I am. So I'm right there with you, man. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm kind of. This is almost the after show rather than the Yogi and Ali chat time because, it's almost like, when you go on a good date and you go home, it's just like, she kissed me.
Little stars in your eyes.
Yeah, he was amazing.
I also will say that like you and I have both pro people, but to me like what's more exciting is those kind of discussions, those conversations with people that are just everyday folks, but you see the path they've traveled and you relate to it so much. It's such an intimate story that it really hits home for you. Because like I've met people like Will Smith and Al Pacino, and I got to shake hands with Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford actually really is a cool guy.
Your second cousin's guy that cuts the gardener off, kid that went to school with, knows Vin Diesel.
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't have the same effect as like talking to folks like him. Like this guy that grew up with games, tabletop games, and comics, and he made that into his lifestyle, and that's awesome. That's exciting,
Yeah, I know. I'm still in the sort of aftermath of talking to him. I'm just tweeting just now. I need to, like, I know this is Geeky Antics and you geeks love us, but the antics of this is kind of the chill out session where Yogi and Ali actually come to terms with what just happened to them.
Oh yeah, this is the hashtag real talk right there. we, that's good too, man. That's geeky as well. That's authentic. But I like what he mentioned about Overdraft. What he did away with some of the science fiction, space opera type of tropes. which I like a lot because I think sometimes when you look at aspects like hyperspace, FTL drive, subspace communication, and if you go even further, time travel, it becomes
Mm.
like a lazy narrative device. All those things become lazy narrative devices. So if he's challenging himself writing something like that, where it's like, well, what happens when where there isn't these easy paths to resolving simple everyday issues? That should make for some really good storytelling. I haven't checked out Overdraft yet, but just hearing him talk about that, like
Do you know
I
what
like
really
that.
interested me is like the big thing for games just now, well, Telltale exclusively is episodic stuff. And I know Resident Evil's doing it with Resident Evil Revelations, but he was telling me about his novel. Now I've got the novel and I've read it and it's brilliant. Overdraft the Rhine Offensive, it's like £3.49, which is about $5. It's on Amazon, you get it in Kindle. He released that like chapter by chapter, like episodic.
I
Now,
see that. I see that. I'm looking at it right now. Eight
now
episodes.
yeah, no, I bought it and I read it pre-show, and it's so good that this is this guy's own, and he's doing more for it, and the Star Trek stuff. This is a guy to watch out for. Not to watch out for. This is a guy you should know about.
Yeah, no. To say like it's a guy to watch out for is like, oh, it's he's a rising star. I mean, this guy is a big deal. He's done a lot of stuff, but it's interesting. All this work that he's done, it's kind of reminds me of some of what I've done, like the ghostwriting. Like a lot of his work, actually everything prior to this, to the Overdraft series, um, has been licensed work, and this was his actual first non-licensed work, his own original content. So that's kind of neat. Like all this time, and it was released when in 2013.
Mm.
Yeah, it started releasing in 2013. Yeah, so it took him
Yeah,
all
no,
that time to do his own
yeah,
story.
yeah, but then the thing is, he's got his own story coming out. He's obviously wrote Kenobi, which came out last year, and he's wrote A New Dawn as well. This guy's the bomb. He's done comics. He's done He's what I want to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah. One day,
Writing
though.
writing though is tough. You have to be really dedicated. That's one thing I'll admit. I've defeated myself many times by not having enough consistency with it. You have to really stick with it.
Do you know what
It's a
your worst
grind.
enemy is? I've found is yourself telling yourself it's not a good idea.
Yep. Yeah.
You're better off
And
just to write.
it's funny. I tell a lot of my friends I'm my own worst critic, so I don't need my friends and family criticizing. Trust me. Anything you've thought of, I've already told myself.
Yeah. Like I came out with my sort of story idea the other day to the missus, and she's supportive of everything I do. Like I'm blessed to have her in my life, but like she doesn't really understand. Like she likes Guardians of the Galaxy, and obviously it's a sci-fi sort of adventure thing. And I was telling her the ins and outs, and I was like, "What do you think of this?" And she went, "That's really good, and I like this." And I went, "Why?" And she went, "I don't know." And I went, "Yeah, and I need input. I need input."
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. You would think actually Star Wars would be a perfect entry point, for people that don't normally like science fiction because it is part fantasy too, if you really think about it.
Yeah, and Tasha loves fantasy. One of her favorite films is
Yeah,
Stardust, and she loves the Narnia movies.
there you
But
go. See, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like they tend to like that, like Narnia, Stardust,
mm,
Harry Potter, but then you try to
oh,
get
she
them
loves
into
Harry Potter.
that.
I
See,
can't stand it. I can't
mine is the
stand it.
same. Mine is the same. She actually got me into it finally. I thought I started to read the books and I thought they were very plain. And I
Yeah.
said, yeah, this is kind of uninspired and it's kind of formulaic. But I got into it. I started falling in love with the characters because of her excitement.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, I'm with you. Trust me, because it was a hard sell for me. Like I didn't get the hype. I was like, okay, so basically, this author wrote in a manner that a third grader can enjoy something and an adult alike because it's very very easy to read and not very that much. The metaphors aren't really there. It's not that deep. The plot isn't that
Yeah.
unique, but the
It,
characters
it,
are lovable.
yeah, the cat. She's done a good thing. She's done a good thing for reading and in a whole for especially Scotland, where a lot of kids over here weren't reading, and obviously J.K. Rowling's from Scotland originally.
Yeah.
Um, she got a lot of people back into reading, and
It's true.
anything that's good for reading is good for me, whether I like the books or not. That's how I see it.
Exactly. So it's a big win for everyone, whether you're a writer or a reader or what or both, whatever. So yeah, you gotta appreciate that story. Um,
Mm.
it's just like everyone that podcasts helps out the space as a whole. We need more
Yeah,
podcasters,
we do, and that's passing on your hobby is one of the best things to do. Like I was saying earlier, like Andy does a show with me, passing on my knowledge to him, gave birth to Shieldcast with Chip and Andy, and it's doing really well. They just need to get David Hasselhoff on that show. But Andy's already told me that I've done better with guests than him. Which I'm pretty good getting guests, but I don't know if I could manage the Hoff. But see if I can get the Hoff for Chip and Andy. That's definite must. And they need to have the original Nick Fury.
Yeah, who was the original Nick Fury? I'm trying to think now.
It was David Hasselhoff in the movie Nick
Was it
Fury.
him? Oh yeah, it
Uh-huh.
was him.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
why
to picture. I'm like, wait a minute, was it David Hasselhoff? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it was.
Yeah, I had to.
Oh my
like,
lord.
I was meant to be on Shieldcast, and I'm not really a fan of the show, but I can see why people like it. But it's I've always said, like, even from the first show when I was on, I was like, we need to get David Hasselhoff on here, and they've not came through. But Andy, Chip, if you're listening, I think Andy said he was going to listen tonight. This is obviously the after show, the Yogi and Ali wind down session. If we could have some jazz music, that would be amazing just now. Just in the background. Imagine me and Yogi in a smoky bar just with fat cigars.
I don't think I have anything jazzy that I could put in the background. Let me see.
With John Jackson Miller just swagging out the bar with his Captain Mal from Firefly trench coat on. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm trying to see if I can find something good. I'm probably gonna sound weird.
I'm gonna pop for a drink.
Are you? Oh yeah, look, that's how you know we're really winding down.
BRB, as the kids say.
BRB, LOL, BBQ. Trying to see if I can find something little mellow. I don't have anything jazzy though. I thought I did. At least not anything royalty free. You got to be careful with that. But this could probably work. I think this is pretty mellow. Let's see. I'll try this right here.
That is not jazz.
But it's laid back though. No, it's not doing it for you. Not mellow enough.
Can you turn the music down so it's in the background, or?
Is that better right here? Is that better? Or is it still too loud?
I cannot hear your mic.
Is that better?
Yeah, but when you turn it up, the music goes up.
When I turn up, the music goes up?
Yeah.
How about here?
That's perfect.
Is it?
Yeah. Can you imagine just setting the scene, listeners, myself and Yogi in the cantina? We've got the futuristic jazz band playing.
Yeah, there you go. This
Yeah.
is jazz in the future.
Yeah. Well, it's dubstep now.
Oh yeah, it just went dubstep. They dropped the bass line.
Well, you can't help the future. No one can predict it.
They get excited in the future, man. Yeah, you're about to get me to. I might have to make a run to the store. I think tonight's a good night to mellow out.
Yeah.
I got some stores, but I might run through that. There we go. Does my voice quality sound good?
Your voice quality always sounds good.
Oh baby. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, bomb bomb, chicka chicka.
I'm definitely have to check out this overdraft.
Yeah, I would suggest to everyone listening to check out Overdraft. 100% check out Overdraft. And you know what? I'm going to include this after show, unedited, on the full podcast. And if you listeners don't think you've got a holiday treat, then I don't know what we can do for you here.
I'm throwing the whole thing up as a YouTube video too. So there.
Nice.
You get the whole thing, the pre-show, the interview, the post-show chill out session. Oh yeah. You know, there was so many more things. I don't know about you, but there was so many things that popped into my head as he was speaking, and I was like, "Oh, we can build off of that. Like, oh, let's talk about that." It's like,
Yep.
it was tough.
He was probably the best guest I've ever had.
Yeah, just really.
Yeah.
I think I would go there too. Very good conversationalist.
Oh,
You know.
I could have done a full length 3-hour show with that guy.
Yep.
I might ask 142 next week.
You know, if he wasn't busy, I would ask him to be a podcast like recurring host. That's how cool I think he was.
Yeah.
But he's clearly smart.
Like,
I mean, it's a hard line of work he does.
Yeah, he only scheduled with us in between cons. Obviously, the guy does a lot of signing and stuff.
Yeah, he's ramped up that stuff lately apparently. Because you know, when you do a lot of writing, especially like novels, you have to go into hermit mode. It's the only way you get anything done. I've done it before, and my family's like, "Are you okay?" It's like, "No, I'm fine. Just working on stuff."
Yeah. The missus hates that when I've got like reviews to do. We've been sent review copies or Derek's asking for something. I'm like, Tasha, I'm busy. I'm in the zone. And
I gotta write more for Derek. I've done like one article for all games. That's it.
I've done a few, but I mean, I've kind of waned off because I've been kind of self-criticizing for a while, and I'm just planning on getting Christmas past. Oh, the ghosts of, and you know, just getting right back into it in the new year, like fully hitting it in the new year.
Yeah.
Really,
you know, the best thing to do, I got it on loop for you. But I think the best thing to do with that is just get it done, you know. I used to be a perfectionist, and that's like the worst thing you could do. You gotta just get it done. Don't worry about the polish. You could always refine it later. But just get it done and get into the habit. Like, the most important thing is getting into the disciplines of it. And once you get the momentum going, nothing can stop you. But yeah, because if you start overanalyzing, that's analysis paralysis, man.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Because, you know, we know how geeks can be super critical. So you start playing that out in your head. You're like, man, if I don't really build out this character well, people are gonna say it's a flat character. Oh, and if I don't include the women enough in there, then feminists are gonna think I'm a chauvinist. Oh, and if I don't create the environment and do some good exposition, and then people are gonna think the world is boring. Oh, but if I do too much exposition, it's gonna be a slow burn, and no one's gonna get past the first chapter. And it's like, oh, and then you just beat yourself up and kill your baby before it's even born. That's how to think about it. You have to think about your creation as a baby. That's actually a little morbid. Let me stop. Let me take that back. Don't kill your babies.
Don't kill your creation.
Don't kill your creation. Yeah, it's a living, breathing thing. And with that metaphor, they all matter, right? You secretly love some more than others, but they're all your babies.
Yeah.
I think Allie's really laid back right now. Is the music doing it for you?
Yeah, it's actually. I'm just relaxed. Man.
There was another thing that I liked that John mentioned. I want to be on a first name basis with him. I just want to call him John. But like, hey, John, how's it going?
John. I was calling Mr. Miller to be respected.
Yeah, no. I called him Mr. Miller earlier, but I want to get to the point where we call him John though.
Yeah, J-Dog. I want to call him J-Dog.
J-Dog was good, yo. But I like
or JJ. What's happening?
JJ, yeah. He has a very epic name. It's a very epic name. John Jackson Miller. It's like
he's got such a writer's name.
He does. I don't.
Like I know I'm from
really.
Scotland. Like my full name is Alistair Angus Kennedy. I sound like a castle.
You do, or a special hamburger.
Yeah, or a butcher's. Yeah.
But
So what's your full name, Yogi?
my full name is just Yomar Lopez. I don't have a middle name that I use officially,
middle name?
unless you count my confirmation name. Then my confirmation name, this is a little behind the scenes, is Francis, which is terrible. Doesn't work.
Yomar Francis Lopez. Of course, that's a writer's name.
You think so?
Yeah, Yomar Francis Lopez.
It's like
Of course
two
it is.
names that are super.
Either that, or you could be a backing dancer for Jennifer.
But it's like two names that sound so Latino, and then like one name that's like so non-Latino. You know?
Well, go for Yomar Francis.
Yomar Francis. Yeah, that could work. Then I could be really exotic. People won't know. They won't be able to pin where I'm from. That could work.
Oh, where's he from? It's so exotic. Yomar Francis stars in the movie with the guy that he once knew through a cousin who cut the grass off, Vin Diesel.
He cut the grass off right off Vin Diesel, off of him.
Yomar Lopez and Vin Diesel star in The Tooth Fairy 3.
And 90% of the movie you can't understand what's being said. But yeah, what I was gonna say though, I like the fact that he got the Scribe Award. Yeah, that's really cool because that's from your peers. That's important.
Yeah.
Those are gonna be the people that will judge you the harshest, probably. Then again, maybe not. People that go through the walk, that do the same line of work, they understand the struggle, so they appreciate what you do more.
Yeah, well, I'll say one guy that's been the main guy for me that I nearly quit 42 a few times. And Matt Bradford was. Yeah. I nearly done with- Bradford talked me out of it. And, like, he was. He talked me up more than I would have liked him to. Like, I'm kind of humble. I don't like talking myself up. I might sound like 42, but that's kind of more of a persona. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I do have a sort of 42 alley. And when I'm off 42, like, you hear me in Star City, you hear me in Rebels. I like having fun, but I'm not overly confident in my stuff. I am sometimes, but Matt really was. So, shout out, Brad.
Yeah, I love Matt. He's actually the person we've had guest on. Wow, he's the person we've had guest on our shows the most. Chip Stella's probably the next one. And Matt's always great to have. We've had him on Timey Wimey Tea Time. We've had him on Horseplay Live, and it's been a great time. Though the late show is tough for him.
Yeah, Matt, even though the time difference, right? Before I was even on All Games, Matt Bradford came in 42 before it was an All Game. That's a big thing.
Yeah. Matt's a great guy. And we got to hang out on Walker StalkerCon.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to meet him next year.
He broke my heart. He broke my heart, though, I gotta say.
Oh.
Did I tell you the story?
No.
Well,
the story of Yomar Francis and Matthew Bradford. A love never told before. This Valentine's Day at cinemas near you.
Well, Matt broke my heart because he left without saying goodbye.
He left. That could be a song. Matt left without saying goodbye.
It could be a song. We should make it a thing.
Yeah.
We could get you know Jake McClanahan.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, we could get him to lay down the beat, and then who do the vocals? Maybe we could get Normie to do the vocals.
Normie, can she sing?
But no, it doesn't matter. She has a nice sultry voice.
Oh yeah.
She can
Normie
just
always
talk.
wants the 42 guys to do a video show. And I think the illusion will be broken if we do that. I mean, you can see my pictures on Twitter. I don't do Facebook anymore. And I think that face on YouTube, especially Andy and Fraser's face, would just tell you, yup, Scottish guys are ugly.
You know, I love video, but it's nice to be able to just do a pseudo video or just audio only, because when you do video and you got the webcams and everything, there's so many more things that could break, and your attention is split a little bit, you know. It's a lot of stuff to do. Like Horseplay Live, we have to do a lot of prep for it, and before the show we have to test everything, make sure the overlays properly working, the cameras are working, and if guests jump in, then we gotta adjust that stuff. Whereas, you know, we do right here, like, you know, we could just have a conversation, let it flow, and not have to worry about, oh, did my webcam break? Oh, there's the overlay funky. No, just focus on the message. I think that's equally important, you know. And then I don't have to look at my ugly mug.
I can't see your mouth on Skype.
You can't see my mouth on Skype? Oh! Yeah, because the picture I have, that's... I think, what are you talking about? Did my mouth disappear? What are you on about? Well, that's a weird bug. My mouth disappeared, but the rest of me is still there. That'd be creepy. Dude.
Yeah, like, I try and put different pictures of me on Skype, like, to annoy Andy, like, the likes of this. Like, see, during 42, what a lot of folk don't see behind the scenes is, because I've basically got it in lockdown, like, I do the whole thing, like, I change my picture constantly on Skype to annoy Andy during his segment. And Fraser does it as well, and, like, can you see my picture now on Skype? No. I do things like that.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Now we're here. You know, I just change things. Yeah.
You know, we've had on Horseplay Live, you know, because our main thing there is doing the interactivity. By the way, I'm still waiting for you to send me an MP3 with your voicemail. We're gonna continue the celebration of a 1 year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was.
I know.
I was either working or no. I'll tell you the truth, Yogi. I was actually at a wedding. I wasn't actually in the house because I was trying to think where I was. Like, my missus is my diary. She knows where I was. I was in Loch Lomond, which is about 2 hours away from where I am. Up where what you Americans imagine Scotland is, like the Highlands with lochs and just nothing going on. No internet, nothing. I was in a hotel, it was terrible, there was folk bands down the stairs, there was with bagpipes, and it was just like, are you kidding me? I'm not that type of Scotsman. And it's like, I'm Scottish, but we're not as Scottish as a lot of Americans think. Like, Chip and me have this long running joke, and he doesn't know what my voice is compared to Andy's, so that's why I call him Fred. And when I went up there, I was like, oh shit. And I didn't even want to go to this wedding. And when we got there, it was 2 days of, because the missus, she was actually the chief, well, not the chief, or one of the bridesmaids or something like that. And I just had to sit there at the church, then go to another place, then go to another place, then go to another place. And I was just, my head was nipping. And thank God I downloaded movies off Amazon Prime onto my iPad. Thank you, Amazon, for that feature. And I was sitting watching Constantine in the bedroom, and her mum and dad were in the room across from us, and they were knocking the door to me, going, do you want to go and do that? I was like, no, just please leave me. You know, her mum and dad are really like, kind of like, I'm 30 and Natasha's 29, and it's kind of like, well, she's 28, sorry. And it's like, kind of, they still kind of see us as the kids, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of parents are like that, though. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing. I mean, they're Italian, and when I went over to Italy, it was lovely and warm and welcoming, and it was a rustic Italian house we went to. But I'm in my country, nice. I'm in a shithole, and I do not want I want to watch Constantine with my headphones on. You know, that might scream more about me than family life, but
yeah, no, I hear you, man. And speaking of Constantine, I saw the pilot. I gotta catch up. I saw that the episode started picking up.
Man, I've Yogi, see this jazz music?
Yeah. What just happened?
If it stops, then that wouldn't stop.
What are you doing?
You know, it's not in the relaxed zone anymore. In the talk zone.
It's not relaxing you anymore?
No, it did.
Oh.
But
okay.
It's a bit like listening to Lady Gaga on repeat.
Oh, is it too much?
Yeah. Lady Gaga's okay, but sometimes she's too much.
Oh.
Yogi.
I can switch it to another one. This one's called "Playing in the Rain."
Can you lower the volume? It just makes me want.
You want to lower it a little further?
How
about here? Is that good?
That's perfect. It sounds like I'm about to find a Pokemon. No, it sounds like a Pokemon, or I don't know. It sounds like I've just got the new Zelda or something.
I guess so. But yeah,
Why have
before I lose the thought, the thing I was gonna say is that we have call-ins whenever
Yeah.
like when we try to have more shows where we talk less and make it more about the community and you know, all the feedback and stuff, and then we have call-ins, you know, live call-ins, and people, and sometimes we get trolls that like keep changing the Skype picture and like trying to have a conversation when you see funny things changing on Skype. So I've learned to keep Skype kind of in the background so it's not distracting me.
Yeah, I think Andy does that now, but I make him look at it. I type in the chat, look at it.
Well, we talk, if we want to talk, we talk through the Google Doc, because then it won't chime and mess up the recording. You know what I mean?
See that's one thing. Like, I see this picture I've got now. I didn't realize I had that when I was doing the B team one night. I was so tired, and everyone kept laughing at safety first. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's great.
So,
the new one that you should get is baking soda. I got baking soda. You know where that's from?
Yeah.
It sounds like he really did say that. Like, bacon soda? That sounds delicious. But what are you talking about?
Do you know, like, I love doing podcasts. I really do, and I really need to do. I'll do my voice thing for you. I will do. I'll get that to you tonight. Actually, straight after the call.
Yeah, it actually worked out perfectly because a lot of people were meaning to call in and stuff. But yeah, last night, I don't know, my internet started taking crap and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I was like, why today of all days? Well, so we gotta keep the celebration going for at least a couple more episodes.
Oh, yesterday the left mouse click would not respond, and I was hitting my computer screen, and Tasha was looking, saying, "What are you doing?" And I went, "It won't click anything." And I don't know what had happened, but my left mouse wouldn't work. And I was like, do not do this the day before. I'm going to speak to the guy that I absolutely adore. Yogi Zelt, and I'm joking. John Jackson Miller. Well, Yogi as well. Obviously, I adore Yogi as well. But I mean, I was like, do not do this before this interview, computer. So I nearly went out today and bought a new mouse. And I got to finish work today about 10 to 5. Came home. Mouse was working like a dream, so it knew. It heard my threats.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing I've learned. Have spare peripherals, because you never know when someone's gonna, you know, spill something or just randomly short out.
Now,
Yeah.
you know, I've got like a wireless. I think that might be my missus' home, so I might need to jump ship soon. I've just
Okay.
heard the door. It's 1:45.
I
Quarter
hear
to
ya.
two. But anyway,
It's about time for
I'll
my
jump-
regular check-in too.
awesome. I'll jump off just now and I'll do you your voice and I'll send you the MP3. But that's been awesome tonight.
Well, I do want to end with one last bit of feedback that comes straight from our live chat. Ex Jolly Llama, who's one of our Twitch stream team members over at Geeky Antics, he wanted to clarify. He said baking soda does sound good in theory. In actuality, it tastes awful. It tastes like drinking straight bacon grease that sat for 6 months with fizz. It's disgusting.
Well,
So there,
on that note,
a little bit of knowledge for anyone that if you might be, you know, traveling the galaxy and you ever have that offered, kindly decline.
so thanks very much for listening and tune in next time.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye, Yogi.
See ya.